If you've been following the 4 Idaho students that were murdered on November 13th at the University of Idaho, this is the update you've been waiting for. A suspect has been arrested, and there's going to be a news conference today at 1 o'clock. I'm going to talk right now about what we do know about this situation, about the rest details. We've got the white Hyundai, we've got a situation. The suspect is a student at Washington State University, which is super close to University of Idaho. Let's get into it. Let's see what we've got going on. So Christopher Kohberger arrested in killings of 4 university students. Suspect Bryan Christopher Kohberger, 28, now in custody in connection to the deaths of Moscow, Idaho college students. Authorities have arrested a suspect in the November 13th murders of 4 University of Idaho students. A high-ranking law enforcement source told Fox News Digital. Bryan Christopher Kohberger, 28, was taken into custody by local police and the FBI at 3 a.m. in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the law enforcement source said Friday. Kohberger was being held for extradition in Monroe Court for a first-degree murder issued by the Moscow Police Department and the Latah County Prosecutor's Office in connection to the slayings of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Kaylee Goncalves, and Madison Mogen, 21. Suspect is a graduate student at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington. According to the college's website, Pullman is a 15-minute drive from the rental home where the 4 students were stabbed. So that's kind of the basics of what we've got going on here. It's interesting that this is a Washington State University student. He is a PhD student. I believe it's in criminology. So is there a connection between him kind of knowing the ins and outs of what he's studying and what happened to these 4 college students? It's hard to say. And at this point in time, there has been so much conjecture on just everything going on with this case. It's just been a wild case. In fact, you've got a situation where even today and yesterday, you've got a Professor Sue's TikToker who accused her in University of Idaho murders. Let me show that real quick. Yeah, Professor Sue's TikToker who accused her of, so you've got a lawsuit going on. You've just got all kinds of craziness going on. And yeah, I think that is, maybe it hasn't inhibited the investigation, but it certainly hasn't helped. There's been close to 20,000 tips in this case, 20,000 tips that police have been covering on top of all of the DNA evidence. And when we talk about DNA evidence, I followed this story a little bit, but you got 4 murders, you got 4 homicides. So you talk about DNA and it was, they're brutal killings with a straight edge knife. Some people called it a Rambo knife. Some people called it, it was a big knife. And so you're basically transferring DNA from one suspect to the other. And this was a college party house. And so you've got all kinds of DNA that's been strewn about. And so it's just taken a lot of time. I think this is the 6th week. We're in week 6 since the murders. And a lot of people have been saying, maybe this case is just a little bit too much for the local Idaho, crime team to solve. But I think a lot of there's been so many tips and there's so much evidence to work through that it's just taken this long. So I woke up this morning and I kind of saw this news story that, hey, there's going to be a news conference, a live stream at 1 o'clock today. And that was my clue to kind of, all right, let's tune in. Let's see what we got going on. And now I'm making this video for you. And so what else do we know on this story? Let's go back and let's take a quick peek and see what we've got on this deal. Get past this. Press conference will be at 1 p.m. Friday, December 30th in the City Council chambers located in 206 East 3rd Street of Moscow City Hall. According to the press release, Police Chief James Fry will give an update on the ongoing investigation into the murder of the 4 students. The last time they held a press conference was on November 23rd. Officials from the MPD, the Idaho State Police, the City of Moscow, and the University of Idaho will be present. And the entity that wrote this article is going to have a reporter there. And, you're going to see this all over the news, all over the media, because, quadruple homicides are fairly unique. I mean, the numbers of them you don't hear about them. It just doesn't happen numerically. It's not really much of a thing. So that's why I think a lot of folks have followed this. And, you've got all kinds of Reddit stuff going on. You've got people on TikTok claiming things. Literally, you've got a TikToker who basically said that a professor at the University of Idaho, she's the one that did it. You got a whole bunch of people basically spreading literally what is truly misinformation. And the Idaho Police Department I've watched a number of press conferences where they've said, yeah, we've just had to sort through a ton of information to get to where we're at. One of the girls' dads has been very vocal about what is taking so long, and was very vocal about, there's all kinds of videos of, if you haven't followed this case, there's all kinds of videos about, live streams at a food truck, at a grub truck in Idaho, where the kids were at before their murders. The murders took place, sometime, I think it was like between 3 and 4, or between 4 and 5, super either late at night, if you look at it one way, or super early in the morning. And so there's footage of this, and there's footage of them walking on the sidewalk, and all of these little bits and pieces that are out there. And the police have been working through that. And there, we've got the issue of let's see if I've got, I don't have that here. We've got the white Hyundai. You got the white Hyundai that people have been talking about from the standpoint of, I think they searched thousands of white Hyundais. They're kind of going down these leads. And the white Hyundai was actually towed from the suspect's home in, back on the East Coast. So that was the white Hyundai that they were looking for. And, he probably drove away from the scene. We don't know anything. 1 o'clock today, Pacific Coast time, 3 or 4 o'clock East Coast time. One of the other things that I saw recently is that the infamous Idaho student murder house to be scrubbed by crime scene cleanup team. So we're at a point, and let's read just a little bit more of this. We're at a point where they're going to turn the home over to the property manager. And I was kind of thinking, man, what a drag to have to try and re-rent this house back out. A crime scene cleanup crew are being deployed to sanitize the infamous murder house in Moscow, Idaho, where 4 promising young students were stabbed to death more than a month ago, police said. Moscow Police Chief James Fry released a video announcing a private company will disinfect the blood-stained 3-story home on 1122 King Street Friday morning. Part of the reason we're doing this is because of the biohazards as well as chemicals that were used during the investigation. So if you remember, this scene was so brutal that you had blood literally running down the exterior foundation wall. You could see it. There's footage of video that people have shot. And then you had the analysis chemicals on top of that. So you've got a crime scene that was just super, super messy. And so the management team is going back in, and they're going to, what's going to happen with this house? Which is a super minor detail, but those are some of the things that run through my head is, oh my gosh, who's going to want to rent this? Who's going to want to rent this property that's had a quadruple homicide? I don't know. Yeah, it's a wild, wild story. But they've got the suspect. We'll find out more about what happens with that suspect, maybe some more of the details. They probably won't release a ton at this point in time, but they've got a suspect in custody. 1 o'clock live stream. I'll be watching that. And we'll go from there. All right, that's it for me. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now. Thank you so much. Happy New Year.